Somebody did a massive independent test of the leading driver safety systems here in China, and boy, did it go badly. Welcome to Wheels Boy, where we cover the newest, coolest, and wildest vehicles from the Chinese car market. Be sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell. This was the most comprehensive test of its kind that I've ever seen, with 36 cars from more than 20 brands, including BYD, Xiaomi, NIO, Huawei, Tesla, Toyota, Mercedes-Benz, and more, but it's currently only available in Chinese. Thankfully, as a China-based car reviewer, I've driven a ton of the cars that were in this test. And more importantly, 我会说中文，可以帮助大家概括一下这期视频的主要内容，不用客气。Let's start with the team behind the video, D-Car Studios, known as Dongche D here in China. You can think of them as similar to something like CarWow, because in addition to being media, they also have a website and app that people can use to research and compare cars. They are owned by ByteDance, the same company that owns TikTok. Point is, this video wasn't paid for by any car brand. All the cars used in the video belong to D-Car Studios, which is why they can do things to them like this.
大概40%的面积撞上了卡车，系统根本反应不过来，就你想救都很难。
One more note about D-Car. Have you noticed how over the past year or so, a bunch of American car media like Doug DeMuro and Forrest Jones somehow got their hands on Chinese cars that aren't sold in America? You can thank D-Car for that, because they were the ones who imported the cars to America and got them registered. No, I don't know how they did that, but black magic may have been involved. Finally, I want to be upfront about the fact that we at Wheelsboy have partnered with D-Car for a little over a year to produce a monthly Chinese language video that debuts exclusively on their platform here in China. This particular video, however, is not sponsored by or in any way associated with them. Okay, now let's talk about the tests. Like I said, 36 cars were taken to a closed 15-kilometer stretch of real two-lane highway here in China and subjected to 6 different scenarios, including both daytime and nighttime tests. In the first such scenario, the subject of the test is following a large MPV in the right-hand lane at highway speeds with heavy traffic in the left-hand lane, when the vehicle in front suddenly changes lanes and reveals a dummy car. The ADAS needs to decide how to respond. Does it try to change lanes, potentially hitting one of the cars beside it, or does it simply hit the brakes and come to a stop? Passing the test means not hitting the parked car or endangering any of the other drivers on the road. Pretty simple, right? Apparently, not so much. A large majority of the vehicles failed to pass the test in some way, as in a vast majority, as in 86%. Either their automatic emergency braking system failed to activate in time to keep them from hitting the parked car, or the system chose to risk a collision with the car next to it, or a combination of both. It's worth mentioning that one of the reasons some of these systems seem to fail is that they couldn't decide which course of action to take, as if they were calculating too many possible options and ended up doing nothing until it was too late. Put a pin in that thought. The only cars that passed were the Tesla Model 3 and X, NIO ES6, the XPeng G6, and the Weilan Shan. The Teslas are camera only, but the other 3 use LiDAR, cameras, and radar. Note that the Teslas were also equipped with autopilot, but not enhanced autopilot or the Chinese equivalent of FSD. I can just feel the smugness radiating off the Tesla stands right now. The first test didn't go well. So what happens if they make it harder by simulating a roadwork site with clear signage, lane markings, and a flag-waving mannequin? As it turns out, a whole lot of cars couldn't handle this either, including some of the cars that passed the first test, such as the NIO ES6 and the Tesla Model X. Oh, now I can feel the rage radiating off the Tesla stands. Relax, the Tesla Model 3 was one of the 8 cars, or 22% of the field, that passed the test. Other high performers included the Ito M7 and M9, Avatar 07 and 12, Luxseed R7, GAC Ion RT, and the Denza Z9 GT. Notice there is almost zero overlap between the winners of this test and the ones from the first test. As for the rest of the field, they either plowed into the construction zone or tried to force their way into the left-hand lane. Keep in mind, that construction zone could have been full of people, equipment, or simply just a big hole in the ground, and a lot of these cars could have run straight into them. But that was all child's play compared to the third test. In this one, the cars are driving in the left-hand lane at night, when a series of speed limit signs tells them to slow down as the left-hand lane ends. This forces them to change into the right-hand lane, which is partially blocked by an elaborate foam truck. Theoretically, there is just enough space to let the cars get by without hitting the cones or the truck. This was easily the most complex test so far, and guess what? Way more cars passed it. Okay, so way more means 16 out of 34 cars, or 47%, but still, that's way better than the previous tests that were supposed to be easier. Note that I said 34 and not 36, because the Neo ES6 and Mercedes-Benz C-Class were both too damaged from daytime testing to compete in this nighttime scenario. Despite the higher success rate, many vehicles still ended up hitting the truck. Multiple cars, like the Leapmotor C10, even crashed headlong into the back of it. Ouch. Others plowed right into the construction zone. The Honda P7, an electric SUV that's only sold here in China, even managed to ram the little flag-waving dummy. Poor little fella. Notable successes included the Tesla Model 3 and Model X, as well as the cheapest car in the test, the BYD Seagull. If you've been paying attention, you've probably noticed some interesting trends, like the fact that a car being more expensive doesn't necessarily guarantee it will outperform cheaper cars. The fourth test also took place at night and was perhaps the simplest yet. A car has lost control and ended up stopped sideways on the highway. All the participants needed to do is come to a stop or somehow get around to the car without hitting it. Only 9 out of 34 cars, or about 27%, passed this test, which is, I don't even know how to react to that. I know that recognizing a car at such an odd angle has been an issue in the past, but you've got radar and LiDAR. This is getting ridiculous. The only cars to pass were the Ito M9, Luxseed R7, XPeng G6, Avatar 12, Tesla Model 3 and X, Weilanshan, Toyota BZ3X, and GAC Ion RT. We're almost done, but we've got 2 quick tests left. The first simulates how the car would react if someone suddenly and illegally cut across multiple lanes to merge in front of it. This is something that happens here in China, and probably everywhere in the world, for being honest. This tests the car's ability to detect and avoid lateral threats, as well as its ability to predict and extrapolate the behavior of other cars. Stop me if you've heard this one before. Only a small number of cars passed, specifically the Ito M9, Tesla Model 3 and X, and Denza Z9 GT. The final and arguably hardest test involved the cars having to avoid hitting an adorable wild pig that wandered into the road. It's not a real pig, but it was still hard to see the little guy, feet swinging away as it tried to make its way safely across the road, only to be creamed by car after car after car. This doesn't seem that serious, but a real pig can weigh a lot and will absolutely obliterate the front of your car. Not to mention the fact that nobody likes seeing a little piggy get hit by a car. The only car that passed this test was the Tesla Model X, which managed to slow down and move slightly to the left in order to avoid the pig. Everyone else sent that pig straight to pig heaven. So, now that you know about the tests, let's talk about their potential limitations, as well as the implications of their results. While I applaud DCAR for putting an incredible amount of time, money, and outright effort into creating this test and making it objective, it's nearly impossible to ensure that every factor is exactly the same for each car. That's especially true when you're talking about tests with this many moving parts. Unlike a human being, these systems can be very sensitive to even minute differences in the environment. And since they only put each car through each test one time, we don't know what results may have come from repeated attempts. Therefore, it must be acknowledged that they might have gotten different results if they ran it all again. Having said that, isn't this an indictment of the systems themselves? Shouldn't they be more consistent in their responses? After all, there are no second chances in the real world. Another thing to keep in mind is that these tests were completed at speeds in excess of 120 kilometers per hour or 74.5 miles per hour, often as high as 130 kilometers per hour or 80.7 miles per hour. These are legal speeds on Chinese highways, but automakers here in China only claim that their AEB systems will be effective up to 120 kilometers per hour. Does that mean they're off the hook if the system fails at speeds slightly above 120? In my opinion, it does not. For starters, these systems allow the user to instruct it to exceed the speed limit by a certain percentage. The car instructed each car to do so by 10%, which is a very common habit here in China. Many cars chose to set their speed at 130 kilometers per hour. I'm sure there's some fine print in the contract somewhere saying, quote, "We're not liable for any accidents that happen in excess of the threshold set by the standards of blah, 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 blah." But there certainly isn't any warning to the driver to let them know that their system can't cope with these speeds. Therefore, I think it's perfectly reasonable for a driver to assume that these systems would be active. I'll talk more about the driver's responsibility in all this in a moment, but first, what can we take away from this test, flawed as it may be? For starters, the undisputed winner of the test was Tesla. The Model 3 and Model X passed 5 out of 6 scenarios, better than any other participant. I firmly believe that Tesla's product lineup is getting extremely stale, and that's particularly true when it comes to the Chinese market, which is ultra competitive right now. Also, you have Elon Musk out there giving his heart to the audience. But these tests show that when it comes to the performance of their safety systems, they may still have a strong edge over their competition. Just to get this out of the way, a potential conflict of interest that I've heard people point out online is that D-Car Studios has received investment from the Chinese arm of Sequoia Capital, an investment firm that is also heavily invested in, you guessed it, Tesla. Some people are pointing to this as evidence that D-Car must have rigged the test to favor Tesla, but for now, I haven't seen any compelling actual evidence for this apart from that one fact. But what about the other systems? I wasn't that surprised when legacy automakers like Volkswagen and Honda didn't do great, but I was very surprised by the repeated failures of brands, Chinese brands, with allegedly more advanced systems like Li Auto, Xiaomi, BYD, Zeekr, etc., all of which include perception stacks with LiDAR, cameras, and radar. That leads to my first big takeaway. More hardware doesn't necessarily mean better results. Time after time, cars were able to perceive what was ahead of them, but unable to quickly and decisively take action. This could be an issue with how they are fusing all the different data coming from all those sensors, but could also be an issue with the way their systems come to conclusions based on that data. That doesn't necessarily mean that fewer sensors is always a good thing. There were some scenarios in which the LiDAR-equipped system on the XPeng G6 was able to safely navigate, but the XPeng P7 Plus, which has no LiDAR, well, it was not. Hand in hand with that conclusion is the fact that cheaper cars were often able to navigate situations better than more expensive cars with more equipment. Just look at how the BYD Dolphin performed in that test with the semi-truck compared to something like the Lincoln Co. 900 or the Ito M9. Speaking of the Ito M9, one of the most surprising things about this test was the mixed results of the cars equipped with Huawei's driver assistance system. I'm talking about brands like Avatar, Ito, Luxseed, and the Fengcheng Baobao 5. We have a review of the Ito M8 coming up on the channel, and I make this comment about their ADAS.
Simply put, I think this is the best system currently available in the Chinese car market, and I'd also argue that makes it the best system available in the world. I'd love to be able to compare it to foreign systems such as FSD, but unfortunately, the most advanced versions of these systems aren't available in the same market, so that's not possible at this point.
When I say that it's the best in the world, I'm referring to things like the smoothness and naturalness of the experience of using its ADAS both on the highway and in the city. What I'm not referring to are these systems like automatic emergency braking, which, apart from doing a test like this or simply driving at a wall and hoping for the best, I have no way of testing on my own. That's why I preface this section of the video by saying this.
Of course, this being a car from Huawei, there's always the option of activating its driver assistance and letting the car drive for you, while of course maintaining full situational awareness, because this is not a true autonomous vehicle. So don't take a nap or look at your phone or otherwise distract yourself, because ultimately your safety and the safety of everyone else on the road is your responsibility, not the car's, especially in a legal sense. So let's talk about the system.
While I have heaped plenty of praise on China's driver assistance systems in the past, it's always been my stance that these systems are impressive but profoundly flawed. That goes for the American version of FSD too, which I have also used extensively and found to be as flawed or maybe even more flawed than Chinese systems. I will continue to hold this stance and apply a high standard to all systems until they can reach a point of true autonomy. Ultimately, I think the biggest takeaway from this video should be this. Don't be a idiot and think that these systems will protect you from anything and everything if you are not paying attention to the road. Yes, even if you're driving a Tesla. Don't forget the way the Model X drove straight into that construction zone. But I refuse to put the blame entirely on the consumer. Automakers also need to start advertising these systems more responsibly. I don't blame your average driver for overestimating the capabilities of their car. After all, the marketing is begging them to do just that. So this should be a wake-up call for automakers as well. Okay, this took forever to put together, but I felt like it was important for me to address this issue. Thank you for watching, and be sure to let me know what you think about this whole situation in the comments section below. See you next time. Okay. Competitive Chinese market. And Elon Musk, that damn Elon Musk, to produce a monthly Chinese language video that debuts? Honda didn't do great, but I was very surprised, I was surprised. I'm a little baby and I'm surprised. Automakers like Volkswagen and Honda didn't do great, but I was very surprised. Holy sh**. Why is that the world's hardest word? But I was very surprised.